Hi, Brian. We saw on the league wire on Friday that Jake came in, obviously a quarterback you've been familiar with. In light of what happened with the Broncos this weekend, are you and Chris considering having Jake or Reed Sinnett, well, I guess signing Jake and then having him or Reed go into quarantine basically just to set up in case there's an emergency? I know we asked you about this, I think in August or September. You said it was a consideration at that point. Is it more of one now?
Yeah, Chris and I have talked about that. We try to distance the quarterbacks as much as possible, the ones that are on our roster right now. I think the intensive protocol helps that a great deal. And one time they're here together is when we're on the field, so it kind of takes care of itself from that standpoint. As far as having someone who is on the roster, but we don't see him at all. We had those discussions, given the way things are set up right now. I don't foresee something like that, but I think we'll always try to stay ahead of things. Obviously, if we want to bring someone in, there's a whole COVID protocol that you don't necessarily visit with the guy. Once he takes a test, it's a visit. So, and then there's 5, 6 tests after that. So, look, Chris, myself, Brandon, our coaching staff, we go through every scenario, and we'll always try to do what's best for the team.
Cam?
Hey, Flo, good afternoon. I guess when we're heading into December, a lot of these games become a little bit more amplified for a lot of reasons. I know you're one day at a time guy, but if there's anything that you want to see from your team in December, is there anything particular that you want them to show you as things could hit this stretch run before the year's up?
I think over the course of a season, you hope that the hope is that the team is building. And I think execution is probably the thing that you need at this time of year. Again, everyone has 11 games on everyone else, 11 or more. Have a pretty good feel for what teams do well, what they don't do well, and it's about execution. So it's about those fundamentals and techniques that we talked about in training camp, that we continue to talk about throughout the course of the season, and staying on top of those, and then building on the schemes that we've run offensively, defensively in the kicking game, and really executing them at a high level. When there's a pretty good chance that our opponent has an idea of what we're going to do, so our execution's got to be at a high level at this time of year for every team, not just us.
Josh?
Hey, Flo, I know everything's virtual today, but I was wondering if you anticipate or any update on Myles Gaskin possibly returning, and if he does, or whenever he does, how do you think that would benefit having him back with the offense?
Well, obviously, it would benefit us. Myles was a productive player for us, running the ball in the pass game, protection. I played a little bit in the kicking game as well, so he's productive. He helps us. He's doing everything he can to get back as soon as he can. Obviously, he was out of practice last week, so that's a step in the right direction. And we'll just take it one day at a time and see how he feels throughout the course of the week. We got to see it in practice. Look, he's doing everything he can to get out there.
Omar?
I wanted to ask you about the Jesse Davis right guard and
Kind of you're freezing up a little.
Robert Hunt at right tackle. Okay. I want to ask about the offensive line with Jesse Davis at right guard and Robert Hunt at right tackle. Did they? How much did they contribute to the success you had running the ball at the end of the game, if at all any?
Well, it's a team game, so they certainly contributed, as did really everyone on the offense at the end. line, the running backs, the tight ends, the receivers. Fitz had a run there at the end. So everyone contributed. I think, across the offensive line and offensively and defensively and in the kicking game, there's some things that we could have done better. We'll get those corrected. And, Jesse, he's a captain on our team. He's played a lot of different positions. He's played well. I think you mentioned Robert Hunt. He's a young guy who's gone in there and played well. Hasn't been perfect, but two hardworking guys who when they do make mistakes, they try to get them corrected quickly, like a lot of guys on this team. So we'll help them do that and hopefully get better, in a lot of areas.
Adam?
I had a question again about the COVID situation. There's a chance the Ravens might have to play tomorrow without practicing for 10 straight days. Is that something that you ever envisioned when this whole thing came up? And do you think maybe the league needs to reevaluate, how they might put teams at risk for having to practice without even seeing each other for a week, or play without even seeing each other for a week and a half?
Well, I think these are very different times than any of us have ever been through. Leagues really done a good job, honestly, working with the teams and trying to get games played. Again, we all have to be flexible. We all have to be able to adjust. But at the same time, we want to keep the players safe. We want to keep the coaches safe. We want to keep everyone in the building and each facility safe. Playing without, practice, I would say that would be tough. There's no doubt about that. But, at the same time, look, every team's got, kind of core concepts, core defensive, core offenses, core kicking game, core things that they do. That I think they'd be able to execute. I'd like to think our team would be able to. So if those were the circumstances, then we would have to deal with them. And at the end of the day, we can only control the things that we have control over. And if put in that situation, we would do our best. That's all you can do.
Steve?
Brian, this is the first time you've been the head coach of a team in a playoff race in December. Will these games feel different for your team? Do you want them to?
No, I want them to feel, we need to take this one game at a time. I think this is a game that, these guys have played since they were kids. We've coached it for a while also. So to make it into something that it's not, it's about fundamentals and technique and execution. So that's how we'll approach it. That's how we'll prepare. We're not going to change anything. We'll just go out there and prepare the right way, practice, walk through, and try to execute the game.
Hal?
Brian, I wanted to ask you about Ahmed. How close might he have been to being available yesterday? And what's the prognosis looking forward to the Cincinnati game for him?
He's making progress. Again, another young player who's doing everything he can to get out there from a treatment standpoint, from a rehab standpoint. So hopefully we'll get him out to practice this week, and we'll see how it goes throughout the week.
Cam?
Hey, Flo, I know you guys haven't practiced yet this week. Do you have any inclination on when you'll have a ability to see if Tua can go this week, if it'll be closer to the end of the week or middle of the week? Are you able to determine that at this point?
No, we're not. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, he was limited on Friday, and he's treating, he's rehabbing, and we'll take it one day at a time. And again, I don't even want to get ahead into Wednesday's practice. He has the things he did today. He'll have some things he'll do tomorrow, and just take that, try to improve on a daily basis, and see how it goes on today, tomorrow, and the ensuing days.
Omar?
I wanted to ask you about, I know it's a one day at a time approach for you, but for every team, it's about making it to the playoffs, pushing for the AFC East division. Obviously, the players know the stakes that they're playing for. At any point, do you address that with them?
No. We just take, you can't get to where you want to get without handling what's right in front of you. I mean, I don't know, maybe some other people can. That hasn't been the case for me in my life. You don't just jump to graduations and things like that. It doesn't just happen. You have to deal with what's in front of you. That's just been my approach. So I understand the question. I know you say that every other team's thinking about it. Maybe you know more than I do. From that standpoint, my dealings with coaches around this league and players around this league is that they try to deal with what's in front of them and don't think about what's 4 or 5 games down the road. That's my experience, but that's just me. And maybe you've had some situations where you've been able to kind of skip steps, or I don't know. I don't go that. I haven't been able to do that. So we're just going to focus on this next week. We got a big game against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's the one where it's a 1-game season. And that's the approach we're going to take. And if somebody else wants to approach it differently, by all means. But I don't see any reason why anyone would approach it any differently than a 1-game season. Just my thoughts.
I got time for one more. We'll go to Adam.
Yeah, excuse me, Coach. Omar asked you a bit about the offensive line. I'm curious, what do you kind of credit the pass protection issues the last 2 weeks to? Are some of these rookies, do you think, starting to hit the wall? Is that something that happens, or what happened the last couple of weeks?
I think we have to play better. I think, as a whole, our communication up front's got to be better. I think our recognition of what we're seeing has got to be better. And I mean, they understand that. We talked about it. It isn't just one group or one player. I think we need to do, a lot better on all 3 sides of the ball. I think, there's a lot of things that we are doing well. I thought we finished the game well. And, fourth quarter time of possession and first downs and the run game in the fourth quarter. In those critical moments, I think that's something that was encouraging. Defensively, I think keeping them out of the end zone was encouraging. Kicking game, I think the way Jason kicked it from a field goal standpoint, it's encouraging. Some other things, obviously, that weren't as encouraging. We're going to try to get those fixed, those rectified. We have a hardworking group. They want to help each other have success. It's important not only for them, but for their teammates. So there's a lot of incentive to try to get it right. And that's what they've been doing, and I'm sure